Hello and welcome to another episode of Meet an Indie Agency. I am Kyle O'Brien, managing editor of Indie Agency News. Today we're getting a little obsessed. In fact, we're getting very obsessed with obsessed media. So we're going to bring Danny Weisman and Barry Dan to the stage and talk about obsessed. So guys, tell me a bit about the agency and what it's best known for.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. So Obsessed was founded a little over a year ago, and our agency's mission is quite simple. It's for better media. And I think we when we founded the agency, we saw the media landscape had evolved much faster than honestly most media agencies had evolved. More and more buying was being brought in-house, especially on the digital side. A lot of media buying was being more commoditized just because you can buy so many channels programmatically or through exchanges. And if you're one of the biggest brands in the world, it probably makes sense to have a more traditional media agency structure. If you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars, that model still makes sense. But if you're a little smaller, if you're a faster growing brand, if you're spending somewhere between $10 and $50 million, if you're expanding to new markets, if you're testing new channels, what we saw is a lot of those brands were buying and planning their media very fractionally. It might be in-house for one channel, they might use an agency for one channel, they might tap a freelancer. They would often sort of have an in-house buyer expand to a new channel themselves and learn on the fly, which is awesome. We're all for increased learning. But what it led to and what we saw in a lot of potential clients that we were talking to was very fractured plans, very fractured sort of go-to-markets. And so we founded the agency sort of with the principle of, how can we help those brands not to consolidate all buying under one wing or one arm, but to come to the table with sort of better, more intentional plans overall. And so, I think that really is sort of the mission and the purpose of the agency is how do we help up-level media across as many clients as we can.
Sounds good. So what would you say the top three core strengths are for Obsessed Media?
Yeah, the first is definitely what we call our live media audit. It's a specific project on how we start every single client scope. And what we're doing is we're evaluating your full media arsenal to really understand what's working, what's not, and to find dollars that can be reallocated for immediate lift. I think what I mentioned before, when you're buying so fractionally or sort of with so many different pieces, unintentionally there are just gaps that exist, and sometimes that is simply by two people who are buying channels not talking to each other, or it could be sort of buying very with specific audiences over here, or sort of in very different ways. And so within that audit, what we're usually coming to the table with is looking at everything you're doing within your full media portfolio, focusing on what's working really well. Usually there is a significant portion of a buy that's working really well for clients and is delivering on their goals. And we want to up-level that and continue to invest in those places. But there are inevitably gaps or areas to improve or areas to fill. And what we want to do is to be able to sort of streamline those and use those savings to then build a full integrated practice around that. I think what's different around with us is that we are often recommending clients keep buying for themselves. Most media agencies don't really do that. Most media agencies they exist to gobble up more and more buying. They want to buy as much media as possible. But because our mission is better media, regardless of who's buying, sometimes our recommendation is keep this channel yourself, but there are 3 or 4 tactics that you should be adding to this. Or oftentimes we're working closely with a client who has an existing buying arm or a specific channel agency, an outdoor agency, things like that, and we're working closely with them to help them understand, hey, this is our TV strategy now, and how do we use outdoor not just sort of as a one-off or as a siloed approach, but to really support the full planning ecosystem. So that audit is really key to all the work that we do. It helps us to understand what's working inside the client's walls and the biggest areas of opportunity. The only other thing I'll say on that is when we're diving in, oftentimes we're identifying there might be 20 to 30% of a media plan or sort of, a media buy that is, overall very, very ineffective, or isn't really doing what we need it to do. A lot of that is because the media landscape is like riddled with fraud. I think last year, in the CTV landscape alone, there was like $26 billion of fraud. And it's almost a rigged deck. If you don't know the landscape, if you don't really know what you should be looking for, if you haven't run multiple campaigns before, you're at high risk for real media waste, for overpaying for targeting, for running in things that like just don't ever hit a human.
Yeah.
And so I think the value that we bring is that experience, that senior experience, to be able to look at everything that a client's doing and say, hey, these things are working really well, and these are areas that are probably not working, and we can reinvest those, not spend $1 more and still increase effectiveness.
I think that last point is really important to us because we know how hard it is for marketers to fight for more budget. And we think the best starting point is to look at the budget right in front of you, how it's being deployed today, because to Barry's point, there is that 20 to 30% we typically see that can be found, reallocated, and improved just from the get-go. So that's something that we pride ourselves on because we know that struggle and challenge on the client side.
Gotcha. All right, let's get into the indie portion of this. Obviously, you're around a year. You're independent. Why is being independent important to you as an agency?
Yeah, it's a really good question, especially on the media front. First, I think we like being, we like not having, sort of a puppet behind us, especially on the, on the buying front. I mentioned the media landscape being, being a bit dicey, let's just say. And that extends oftentimes to media agencies too, especially holding company media agencies. And Danny and I have both worked inside the walls of agencies, big and small, private and public. And they simply do just operate differently. When you work inside of a large media agency, there are often either explicit or underlying rules that, in terms of as a media buyer, that you have to follow. There are rules like if the brief comes in under $5 million, all of it has to go to search to Meta and Google because we have these deals in place. Mm-hmm. Or we have a principal-based buy, which essentially means that now those media agencies can go resell inventory, like they can go resell media inventory to clients, not tell the clients how much they actually bought it for, and make more money off of those clients. A very non-transparent practice. So they might say we have a buy like that with this large TV network, so we want you to sell that inventory first. So those practices make it, as a planner, at best more challenging to do effective plans, and at worst, it's not the best feeling in the world to say I can't even put forth the best recommendation to my client because my boss's boss's boss has told me that everything has to go to Meta and Google under this brief.
And clients see right through it. I think a lot of the clients that we talk to want both that better rationale for the media choices being made, as well as more senior level expertise and more experience. And that's what Barry and I pride ourselves on. That's what our team prides ourselves on, is having an integrated experience across a number of different channels. It's interesting because Barry was talking a bit earlier about how it might make sense for bigger clients to work with bigger agencies because they have those bigger budgets and they get better rates. But I do think it's ironic that you have the biggest holding company agencies in the world with all the technology, all the AI, all the improvements, and their answer 8 or 9, 10 times out of 10 is, why don't you spend on Google and Meta? And I think that's just outrageous, right? Like if you're going to have that much technology and firepower, then you want to put clients' dollars to good use and be able to give them recommendations that are going to let them stand out from the category versus just blending. And so that's, I think, we try to put fresh eyes on every project by being independent, but also having the willingness and flexibility to hire who we want, hire the right people for this company, and people that are going to really improve the client's business that we bring on.
Right. Yeah. And we'll certainly get to talent in a bit, but you mentioned a little bit about, the clients are coming to you because you're independent and you give a different view. Kind of expand on that, why clients are coming to you because you're independent.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Barry and I, he alluded to it, but we've worked for years across a number of different media agencies, both at the bigger ones or the bigger holding companies, as well as other independent agencies that did a really good job prioritizing the collaboration between creative and media. So I think Barry and I have always put that at the forefront. It sounds crazy to say, but do you watch Pluribus?
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. it almost feels like media has this hive mind right now that everyone just agrees on the same things, and all those things seem kind of foreign and zombie-like. You have to run programmatically. You have to run in only a handful of channels that get all the dollars. And I think clients are refreshed with our point of view. We like to work with brands.
Carol. Yeah.
Exactly. We're the Carol. And it's like, it's crazy to say your media should just be seen in the right context with enough attention to break through instead of below the fold or for less than 2 seconds, which isn't enough time to make a memory. So
yeah, there's been a few clients that we worked with, and when they've asked us for our first instinct on what they think or what we think that the answer is, or sort of how to reapproach media, after we sort of have a conversation about it, they'll say something along the lines of like, that is quite the opposite of exactly what my current media team or agency or whomever is saying, and I think that's right. So I think the hive mind thing is exactly right. Is that there's so much gravity that pulls people towards these what feel like safe, expected choices. And by the way, the platforms are almost working against buyers in that sense too. YouTube has over the past year has prioritized shorts, not just with not just sort of with advertisers,
Yeah,
but actually within the algorithm. They've moved shorts up and added more shorts, sort of interstitials to get people to watch more shorts, because what they've learned is that I can get more advertisers if with faster swipes than I can with long form 30-second assets or inserting 2 ads every few minutes. And that is the ability for them to sell more ads, and that sort of works its way all the way back up the platform. That if you just simply run a YouTube broad buy, it will insert you more into shorts. You get lower attention. So even that is an example. Is like if you don't sort of know the intricacies of the system and the incentives of the media providers, you might just sort of end up in a less than ideal media plan, and that adds up really fast. If you're spending $5-10 million in YouTube, it might push half or more of that budget into things that are under 1 second of attention. It's really hard to break through in under 1 second of attention.
yeah, it is. So you've given some good arguments already, but why should a brand work with you? What's the main reason a brand should work with you?
I think the main value that brands get out of working with us is our senior only expertise. I think there's so many, because of the fractured nature of the media landscape today, and really over the past, I'd say 5 to 10 years, there's so many media planners or buyers who have deep channel level expertise. Mm-hmm. And that is incredibly valuable as planners ourselves, working sometimes with buyers who have really, really deep channel expertise is incredible to be able to witness what they can do inside of Meta or with an outdoor budget or things like that. But so few now, even sometimes agencies, have full integrated expertise in a way that if you're talking, they might have it across a full agency, but with your lead representative, with your sort of like who's in charge of my budget on a day-to-day basis. And so within our model, that is senior experts like Danny and myself, where when you want to work with someone who has experience over hundreds of campaigns, spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, that experience, we've seen a lot. We've tested every single channel. We've run in different with different verticals, with different industries. We've seen what works. We've seen what hasn't. And so I think at most agencies you might get 2 to 5% of that person's time. Whereas an agency like ours, you're getting a significant portion of our time. We're the strategy and the planning leads. We do have backup support behind us in the form of the planners and buyers at the agency. But that senior expertise is really, I think, what is most valuable to the client to work with.
Yeah, certainly. Obviously, you've worked with a lot of brands over the years. What have you learned from those brands that has helped make you a better agency?
I think one of our big principles is quick and thoughtful. And I do think that the ability to deliver quick and thoughtful work with that's very quality, is something that every client we've worked with appreciates. And when they don't get that, we see fractured relationships. We like to say that media agencies today, and maybe you can extrapolate it to other agencies or types of agencies and even companies, are typically one of two things. You're either fast and shallow, You can get an answer pretty quickly, but that answer typically revolves around the usual suspects of media partners like the Metas and the Googles of the world. Or you're very thoughtful, but it takes you 2, 4, 12 weeks to get an answer across of a strategy or a media plan. And CMOs with tenures of 2 to 3 years just don't have time for that. And so I think that the ability to deliver quick, thoughtful work. I think the other thing that we prioritize from a media perspective that we don't think other media partners or agencies do is putting attention and context at the forefront of everything we do from a media standpoint. I think the industry has over-revved on audience targeting to deliver the results they want and reach people at the right time. And there's been too many studies and campaigns that we've worked on that targeting is overrated, not always accurate, in fact, often rarely accurate. And it's more important to put media in a high attention context, whether that's video or outdoor or quality podcasts, as well as in a context that the audience actually cares about. So really prioritizing those two things at the forefront of our planning process, our buying process, I think immediately just leads to better results for clients because we're putting ourselves in the customer's shoes and just trying to figure out what they want to watch, what they hear, what they view, and are going to be influenced by.
Sure. Let's talk talent. You brushed on it briefly, but let's talk. Well, how many people are at Obsessed Media?
We're 10 people now.
10 people. Great. Okay. So lean and mean, just perfect for the indie world. Love it. So why, if someone's coming up, why should they put your agency on their list as talent?
You want to go for it?
Because we're two good looking guys. I think that Barry and I, in previous roles, we've always prioritized getting the most out of the talent that we've worked with, but also from that perspective of better media. I think that we care so much about our talent and so much about potential talent because we want to show them the right way to plan and buy. And I think a lot of planners, to Barry's point earlier, are put in a tough spot at a lot of different agencies. Their incentives are to make their agency more revenue from shadier practices. Their incentives are to plan and buy against only a handful of channels. Or they're working on a client for 2 to 3 years. I think what I've always liked about working at smaller agencies, and this agency currently is, we have a wealth of clients that, it's not uncommon for someone to work here to work across 3, 4, 5 different projects, and you're getting exposed. Your learning curve is bending because you're exposed to so many different industries at once. I've also always liked the places I've always liked to work at, and I think we're building that at Obsessed, is it feels like you're working at the agency, not for the client. And, it's often when you can work at an agency, it feels like you work at that client that you work for, which is amazing. We always put our clients first and foremost, but we want to build a culture here that we have a way of doing business, we have a way of doing work, and that way of doing work translates to business results for our clients. So I think that all those things together is why someone should work here. And I do think the things we're teaching are going to help them not only in their media planning careers or buying careers, but also just in terms of their careers as well.
Yeah, I think pretty critical. Danny and I are both we're both generalists, and I don't know if you've read the book Range, but it's essentially a book about so much of the world has become very specialized, and about how the value in being a generalist and having an understanding of multiple different things. And so even down to in media, we are not a search or a social shop. We are a fully integrated media shop. We plan and buy and understand all different media. Within those audits, we are giving creative recommendations because it's really hard today to separate creative and media. So we're looking at the creative that you're running by individual platform and understanding, hey, if you're producing this amazing 30-second asset and running it in an environment that is generally muted and under 2.5 seconds, it's not a good fit. Deeply understanding marketing research to understand not just media principles, but creative principles and sort of overall communication principles to improve our clients' results. So that is the spirit of the agency. That's how Dan and I were both sort of taught as we were growing up in the industry. And so that is very, very important to us. So anybody who comes here is exposed to that. Danny mentioned works on multiple clients, multiple industries. That helps to create synapses in your brain that can't exist when you work on one thing in one industry for a long period of time. And I did that for part of my career. I worked on one CPG brand for 4 years in a row. It was amazing. I left, and when I left that job, I thought I knew everything there was to know about that world. And then I worked on a tech brand, And I was like, man, I don't know anything. So I think the more that we can teach people different skills across media marketing goals, it will help them here and wherever they go, sort of in their future.
It's funny. We when we hired someone recently, we called it. We gave them a brief, and we met them at a bar in a brief. And the brief was, hey, look at a recent creative campaign that you saw on Ad Age or Ad Week, and come to us with 3 media ideas for that campaign. And we're going to meet up at a bar. We're going to discuss it. And I also just like that concept. Like, we want everyone who comes here to be obsessed with better media.
Right.
That has to be the bar. And if you feel, come to an interview, getting a brief and doing that, that's amazing. And then if you're a good hang, that's the A+. And so I think that's what we're looking for with talent. Because even as we're talking about this, we're not incentivized by, and like, we're not just independent, we're bootstrapped. Like, Barry and I are building this business from the ground up. We have a lot of great people on the team right now. We don't answer to anyone but, ourselves, our clients, and better media. And we want to be able to bring in people to that culture, and not bring in people too if they're better at another place. And right. I think we're open to conversations with any talent of what their career paths are, because we want to make sure everyone has a good home, and the people that really want to do what we're doing come here.
That's great. All right, let's find out what you are in the indie spectrum. We call this weirdos, misfits, or underdogs. What would you say? Or it can be a combination, but would you put yourselves in one of those categories, or say you're a combination of those?
Yeah, we didn't talk about this, so I'm curious what you have to say. I think we're misfits, or at least I think personally I feel like a misfit sometimes. I grew up as a media person inside the walls of a creative agency, and that really helped to shape how I think about media and marketing in general. And so I think oftentimes we are making recommendations that I think, as we said earlier, feel like completely antithetical to what the average media person would say. And so I think sometimes we're just coming at things with such a different perspective that that we feel, like a misfit within media. I do think that that's necessary, because so much, like I mentioned before, the gravity of bad media is really, really strong, and or low attention media, or out of context media is really, really strong. And so we try to sort of buck that trend. So I would sort of qualify us as a misfit.
I think we're weirdo. I think I'm.
You think we're weirdo?
I don't know if this is an individual question or a company. But it's the same things that Barry was saying. It's similar to what I was saying earlier about the hive mind. It just feels like, how could it be heretical to say, what would be awesome if your media reached the people you wanted to win with in the places that they care the most about. And for so many media companies, they just don't lead with that. They lead with AI, they lead with the technology, they lead with their size and their weight. And it feels weird to say. I can't believe it feels weird to say. But it is something that I feel, at least within the category of media agencies, feels like a little weird.
Yeah, and I will say, I'll only add to that. I think part of what we love about being independent too is the ability to work with so many awesome indie creative agencies. That's really inspired us sort of in this world. And those, it's so refreshing to talk to those agencies as well, because so often they're facing the same challenge, but don't have access to media data or any media intel to even make that case to say, I don't want this buy to only exist in the long tail of digital, where we're producing this, amazing creative, and the risk is no one's going to actually see it. Right. So the ability to sort of partner with amazing indie agencies as well, and bring those perspectives forward too is really awesome.
Well, that's what we're here for, and that's why we're glad you're a part of it. And thank you so much for being a part of it. We got one final thing for you, and that's a shout out. So you can choose to choose a CMO or a marketer, or maybe somebody you want to work with, or maybe somebody you have worked with, to shout out and say hello.
You want to go first?
No, why don't you go first?
I'll go first. Okay. I want to say hi to Allison Stodd. What's up, Allison? Over at Ollie Dog Food. We're doing some awesome work with her. And the full Ollie team. So excited to see that continue to come to fruition. And Allison's been there, I think, 6 months or so, and hopefully helping her in her new CMO journey.
Excellent. Danny?
My sister just had a baby, so I want to give her a shout out.
Excellent. I love it.
Congrats to my sister, not a CMO. Does work in marketing. No, I was on Ad Age this morning, and I saw the CMO of Pinterest left. I think she had been there for 8 or 9 years. And I want to talk to the new CMO of Pinterest. I think we want to talk to any CMO at an inflection point who is coming into a new situation, not really sure what the media program they inherited is, or they know they need to change something up to achieve better results in 2026 and beyond. Those are the CMOs we're for. And I'm always scouring Ad Age, Ad Week, Marketing Dive to look at who's in the news, because those people in the news just launched a campaign. Curious how it's going. Let's talk about it. If it didn't meet the results you wanted, we're here for the next one.
Fantastic. And when those people reach out, where can they find you?
You can go to obsess-media.com, or you can go to LinkedIn. Danny's pretty prolific on LinkedIn. Give Danny a like if you made it through the 30-minute mark of this. Give Danny a little like on his recent post.
Going from 12 to 13 likes on a post means so much.
That's great. All right. Well, Danny Weisman, Barry Dan, thank you. Obsessed Media. Look them up. They're there and they are working for you. So appreciate that. And thank you for tuning in to Meet an Indie Agency. We will see you next time. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Kyle.